Mia, can you confirm that you can see my screen on the?
I can see you.
Are you able to see my deck?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, we can see that.
Okay, all right. So thank you so much to everyone who joined us today. I hope more people will be trickling in. So while we wait for them for like 5 minutes, we can get started on the introductions and some of the stuff that we would like to share before the webcast and the webinar starts. So first of all, just take a bit of time to familiarize yourself with this webinar application. You can see on the right, you should be able to see a chat screen where you can write chat messages to introduce yourself to other community members who are joining us today in this webinar. Don't use a chat window to ask questions to the speakers. Use a Q&A widget on the left. You should see ask questions as a widget. Go there and ask your questions there. People will be able to upvote your questions and we will be able to prioritize the questions to the speakers. So ask the questions there. You should also see a poll section. So if you have any, if you have some time, just take the poll. That would help us understand, your context and see what kind of audience we have today. Be social. So we have this hashtag. You can start using this hashtag to share and make some buzz around this webinar today. Before we begin, and maybe let's stop here for like less 2 minutes to give more people some time to join in. So we have 150 plus attendees in this webinar. When we started, and I think this week we had only 5. So I think a lot of interest got built up in last 3 or 4 days, and rightly so. We all understand how important data recruitment is going to be in future. So it's really commendable that people took out time for this to improve their skills, to learn, and to discuss some useful stuff with the community. So kudos to you, to everyone who joined us and who registered for this webinar today. Potentially, we have here a biggest online gathering of data recruiters in India. So high five to everyone for that. While you are also waiting for others, and while you listen to the talks that we are going to have in this webinar, we have 3 interesting talks from different standpoints and different perspectives from the speakers who have very different experience from each other. So while you listen to the talks, while you savor the content that you're going to share, if you get an insight that you would like to share with somebody, that's something is a light bulb moment for you. If that moment comes to you and you have an insight that you gleaned from today's webinar, go ahead and share on this thread on LinkedIn. The link will be given to you on the chat window. So just click on that link on LinkedIn, and whenever you get something insightful, post there as a comment. People who will have the most engagement or who will come up with the most unique insight, something which is very useful to the community, we will also ship some cool Starbucks card to them so that they can have more of these aha moments over a nice coffee. And the speakers will be also participating in that, I hope, and they will also be choosing the winners for us. So we have 3 talks. After each talk, we will have like 2-3 minutes for 2 or 3 questions of Q&A, and then we can have a joint Q&A in the end. So collectively, we can answer the questions and discuss the overall topic. The cool thing with this webinar software also is that anybody who is listening in, who is not a speaker yet, who has an insight, who wants to share something on the podium, just raise a hand and we will invite you to the screen. So anybody can become a speaker here, right? So that, and before we begin, most of you should be aware of CutShort since most of you came through our emails and stuff. But if you're not aware of CutShort, or if you have not had a chance of exploring it, CutShort is one of the fastest growing platforms in India. We have 5,000 plus companies, all the way from small bootstrap startups, all the way, and a lot of other innovative startups who are using the platform. And why they're using the platform? They use a platform to simplify their hiring with AI and automation. And we do, at multiple levels, we try to reduce your effort in hiring and try to help you close more roles much faster and with much less effort than the conventional platforms. And you can you just go to this URL, cutshort.io/hiring, to familiarize yourself a bit more about our solution, and then we have you discuss more. So, okay, let's begin. And the lineup is like we have 3 talks. So let me invite the first speaker, who is Advait Bhave. He is a data scientist and a machine learning engineer at Dhruva, one of the better known startups coming out of India in recent years. So I'll let him introduce himself a bit more, and he has about 6 years of experience in this data role. The reason why we got him here is he is a very good communicator. He understands the space very well. As a techie, he does this for a living. And what he's going to do today is he's going to explain the different roles that exist in data, and he will take you through what those roles really mean and what those skills really what those roles require in terms of skills from somebody who wants to work on them. So over to you, Advait.
So thanks, Nikunj, for having me on the webinar and giving me opportunity to share my mind about data roles and how to hire for data roles. I hope I am audible to everyone and everything okay.
You need to share your screen.
Okay, I'll share my screen. Just give me a minute. Okay, is it visible now?
Not yet.
Not now. It's showing me the screen share is on.
Okay, it has not come here yet.
Okay.
Maybe quickly refresh your page or something.
Okay. So I'll refresh. Just give me a minute.
Yeah, you will stay connected. Just refresh. In the meantime, Srinidhi, why don't we go over your experience and what got you here today? You're not audible.
Can you guys hear me? Great. So, yeah, hello everybody. I am Srinidhi Rao. I am the head of delivery for the Math Company. What we do at the Math Company is basically help companies set up centers of excellence for analytics. So we have a bunch of Fortune 500 customers who want either to set up a new center of excellence or upgrade their existing center of excellence to something that's next gen, right? And that's what we help them with. So that includes doing the entire strategy of how to set up the center of excellence, how many data scientists they need to have, how many data engineers they need to have, etc. Right? And what should be the reporting structure, and who should they report into the GHQ? What should be the relationship between GHQ and the data scientists, as well as how do we hire them, how do we train them, how do we make them work as a team in terms of processes, etc., the entire governance structures, and everything that takes from walking into an empty building to setting up a full-fledged analytics center of excellence. We have been doing this for like almost 18 months now, and we have about 22 Fortune 500 companies in our list. So before this, the founding team, I know some of us were in Mu Sigma. We were in the leadership team of Mu Sigma, and we did a bunch of experiments there in terms of hiring data scientists, training them, and getting them work in large scale. And then I will talk to you guys, through the journey of what are the experiments we did, where did we fail, where did we do it right, and how are we applying that to this new venture that we are doing right now. Right? So yeah, before this, I was heading the retail vertical for Mu Sigma, about 20% of the company's business. And before that, about 10 years of management consulting, predominantly based out of Washington. So yeah, this is my profile, and very excited to talk to you guys after Dwight in terms of how we went about doing like million experiments over the last 10 years, where we hired Music Man in the past as well as now for various different enterprise person enterprises.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting, Srinidhi. I'm looking forward to that personally a lot because, unlike some other companies who do this only for their own company at one time, you're building multiple teams or multiple clients with different contexts. So it's going to be very, very interesting for us to understand how you guys are doing it. So over to Advait. Your screen is now visible.
Okay, cool. So sorry for the minor interruption that we had, software glitch maybe.
No problem.
So I to give more background about myself, I have been working in technical roles for around 17 to 18 years, and I have touched most of the popular technologies along the way. Uh, Last 5 6 years, I have been worked mostly with data engineering, data science, and multiple data roles. One of the advantage I got working in current position is working with a small team and being a small company, I got to explore multiple sides of data roles. And I'm going to share my experience in the same regard with everyone.
I think Arvind, you need to be a bit louder. There's some feedback that your voice is a bit weak right now.
Okay. Is it okay now?
Yes, better. And also your screen, I think, is the browser resolution is 110%. Like you have kind of zoomed in. Just zoom out a bit.
Okay.
I think it's not 90% now.
Right.
I think it works.
Okay.
This works.
Okay.
Yeah.
This works. I'll just hold a mic nearby so I don't have to shout really. So is that okay now? Volume level?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So let's, in the tradition of data science, let's start with the problem. Uh, so we have, as every recruiter or every founder or anyone who is looking for data scientists must have experienced this, that we have bunch of organization needs, which I have shown on the right hand side. And then there are some buzzwords around data science roles. Obviously, the key buzzword is data scientist, followed by data engineer, some need data analyst and things like that. And from the organizational standpoints, many times we don't understand like what we want to do. Maybe a position is for ad hoc analysis, uh, building big data pipeline and things like that. So during next 15 minutes, what I'm going to do is demystify the different task or different day jobs that all these role perform, and probably throw some light from very high level that how organizations different in uh, are in different stages of data engineering or data science. uh, so let's move to the different thing. First we have to understand two things. As you have seen from the cloud of on left hand side, data scientist is a useless job title actually. It doesn't convey much information. It is you can say catch all term from for many roles related to data. So anyone wants to do something with data, he will say I want a data scientist. We are not really going to get what work he's trying to do, what problem he's trying to solve for the company. It's a general catch all term. As this field is developing and maturing, it is accepted that such things will happen. But if we want to kind of have a perfect fit between a person that we are hiring and the organizational need, we need to dig deeper and understand what are different flavors these data scientists come in. So number one, data scientist is a catch-all term. The second is not all organizations have same need. Not all organizations are in the stage of predicting data. There are some organizations who have just started the journey. There are some organizations are in a different maturity. They more want to operationalize. And very few organizations are at higher maturity stage where they have operational pipelines where they have been collecting data, they have been making predictions, they have been making models, and they want more researchers kind of positions. So the organizations also are in different stages and of building data driven culture, and hence they require different skill sets. Because suppose an organization is just starting the journey, the kind of skill set they require are distinctively different from the organization who is in the midway of the journey. So we have to understand the both aspects if we want to uh, solve this mapping puzzle nicely. So before we move into what kind of data roles are available, I'll just what you can say talk little about data science process. I think most of you must have had a decent idea of what it could be, but no harm in revising it. So typical data science goes like this: that we define a problem and uh, define how we can validate a solution. That's very important because uh, we have to understand that if we cannot validate solution, it is really we cannot tell whether we have solved a problem or not. So defining that criteria is very important. Then we go on and collect raw data, clean that data. We explore and analyze to build what kind of things we can do with data. That is a very important thing. Then we build ideas and model. This is where the machine learning, quantitative modeling, the mathematical and statistical experience come into picture. We validate model and say, as we have set up the criteria in the first step, we also validate our solution. If we are happy with the accuracy and performance of the model, we create insights, visualize and explain. Now we also create few insights along the way while we are exploring, cleaning up data and things like that. But the meat of insights come after the we validate the things and we explain it to the stakeholders. And as you know, that this entire process has to be kind of made in the process. We try to operationalize the thing and then ultimately inspire the decision in the management, because they were seeking solution to the problem. So our data scientist job is also tell a convincing story if we are near to solving the problem using data driven methodology. So this is the data science process. And uh, before we go to organizational maturity, I'll just in a couple of minutes I'll take an example to tell you how we go about this. Uh, so let's say that company like Netflix wants to recommend you what kind of movie that you like for a Friday. So problem for Netflix is to recommend the right movie in personalized fashion. So for that, what Netflix first is going to do is collect data about you, what kind of movies you have watched so far. It is also going to figure out that you like action movies on Friday. It also going to figure out all the users of Netflix who like action movies on Friday and see what kind of movies they have watched. So that's a collect raw data and clean data. They are going to build some idea around that. For example, that the people who are in India having subscription of Netflix for more than 5 months and have watched Tom Cruise movies, a new Mission Impossible movie would be of interest to them. That's my modeling hypothesis. I am going to validate it using some of the past movie experiences, although not Mission Impossible, but some different movies. And probably then later operationalize this entire stuff. And you have a pipeline which recommend you a new movie every time you log into Netflix every Friday. So this is the data science process at high level, very high level. But not all companies are at the stage of Netflix or Uber or Airbnb and Google. There are many companies who want to uh, get benefits out of this data culture, but they are at the very starting point of this journey. So whole this journey starts with a ad hoc data collection and analysis. So this is typically goes like this, and a person who is in charge of solving problems wants to have some insight about how we can solve problem using data, and he hires a person who is good at data analysis, crunching numbers, and performs the analysis, and it is done. It is not controllable, it is not repeatable. There is no guarantee that it is stored in one place. So we, as organization gets little matured, they focus on controllable data collection, so they can actually understand what data needs to be collected. They collect it on regular basis and keep it at a place where people can access it very easily. Uh, then there is a next stage where they can perform repeatable experiments, and actually then the stage comes in of making predictions, ability to compare models, and last is basically automated insights or very fast data driven decisions. So this is a very high typical structure. Not all organizations follow this structure, but this is like my idea how organization moves through. The implication of this structure is the machine learning engineers maybe are very important at later stage where people have figured out how they are managing their data, and are they managing it in controllable and repeatable fashion. Before that, you are much better hiring of data analysts or people who have a statistical background who can help you perform the experiments quickly. For ad hoc data analysis, you are much better hiring of a generalist person who has the attention to detail, who knows little bit of data analysis, who knows the playing around data, data munching, and things like that. And for last, it again goes to more and more towards machine learning, AI, and applied research. So this is the journey that we are following. So
I think, Satwik, there's one interesting point here is that a lot of companies, especially startups
mm,
who are just starting out, they just get this fancy idea of using data scientists, science,
mm,
machine learning in something because they see everybody else is doing it.
mm.
So why? I mean, maybe you want to elaborate on that. That if you're not doing the first two,
Mm.
there is no way you can either directly jump to the final top two things in that picture right
Yeah,
now that you're
yeah,
showing.
yes, absolutely. And this has I have seen with many companies again and again. So there is no escape from good data collection. There is no escape from keeping central data repository. And if you don't have any of these and just hire a data scientist, you are not going to get much out of that data scientist, because the first thing that he is going to ask you is, show me some good data. And although it is also said that 70% of the data scientist job is to gather data and curate data and clean that data, that's right. But at the same time, there has to be data collection culture and data collection pipelines. So you are much better off starting that journey with data engineers and people who are experienced with data management, and slowly introduce data scientist in the picture where he can make you a faster insights. So that's how I see it.
Right.
Okay. Now, now after going to organizations looking at a data science process, let's see what kind of different roles that we see in the market. So for that, I'm using 2017 Kaggle survey. Uh, Essentially, you will see data scientist is the most popular topic, followed by software developer and engineer. But a software developer and engineer also have multiple skills which are related to data. Then data analyst, scientist, researcher, and things like that. So whenever you see any of these, be assured that you are hiring for a data role. And now the important question is how to validate this, how to validate whether these people have right skills. So the next line is, what are the most popular skills that people are pursuing and they have it on their profiles, which gets hired. So as per Kaggle is a platform for data scientists. So it takes into consideration many people who come to Kaggle for learning data science know little bit about data science already. So Python, SQL, R, and algorithms form the top of the stack. Then there is a Java, big data, and so on. Sorry. So when you want to hire, you want to focus on these skills basically, because this is where the sweet spots lies for many data roles. Uh, Now, for we talked about different roles, so I'll briefly touch upon what each person is supposed to do. So, data analyst is more of a person who understands domain, who can look at your data, slice and dice the data, create decent visualizations, understand little bit of statistics, but mostly good at programming, mostly good at visualization. You are not looking for thorough statistician or thorough mathematical person or thorough algorithms programmer or a person who can productionalize. You are more looking at a ad hoc data analysis and also the pre-processing step of data machine learning or data science. So the first column, data analyst, is the role good for that. The second role is what you can say the master or key role of this entire piece is machine learner. He needs to be good at that. So you, for this profile, you need someone who is an expert, who can handle the complexity, who can write good software, I mean good programs, who also has decent knowledge of maths, who can understand and communicate with data scientists and implement those in production, who has knowledge of distributed systems and things like that. So this is the profile which is right now most sought after profile after data science. Then there is a data engineer. This person is not very heavy on the machine learning side, but who is very good at managing data pipelines, who is good at collecting data, who can understand the database fundamentals, who can play around with big data, who can establish your data architectures with very ease. Is the person of that sort. And the last column is data scientist. As you can see, he is very heavy on the maths, stats, data intuition part. He has worked in many scenarios where there is a good amount of data. He is master of building inferences. So given a data, he can suggest to the course of action. He has the intuition where this entire thing is going to go. What is the solution? So that is the person data scientist. uh, you can go little relax on the software engineer part for data scientists. So that is how the skill matrix is, and you have to keep that in mind while hiring for the roles. Now coming to another important part, that many times people look for only one thing. So people are very good at data munging, data cleaning up with Python, but they have very little other knowledge. So my opinion or my suggestion to everyone is more than T-shaped profile. That is, you are only good at one thing, and breadth of knowledge uh, as the what you can say the large breadth of knowledge, but only good at one thing. For especially data roles, look for domain specialty also. That will help you a long way. Suppose your company is working in let's say healthcare business, and you get a person who is excellent with stats and computing but doesn't understand anything of health. You have to train that person, and he has, because all algorithms are not dumb algorithms. You have to do feature engineering. You have to understand the causation, which is very important part. You have to explain the results in the lingo of stakeholders. So for this, you require a domain specialty. So look for pie-shaped profiles. Prefer profiles who have at least some exposure to the domain that they are going to work on, and then the mapping will be very successful. So uh, I will I will close the talk with the conclusions that we have seen in last 5 slides. uh, First, understand what the phase organization is in. We saw that each organization is in different phase. They are trying to solve a different problem. Create a right role description using your knowledge of what kind of different roles exist in data engineering and what kind of skills there are. So as we saw, if you want to create a role description for machine learning engineer, you want to be heavy on algorithms, you want to be heavy on Python, you want to be very heavy on maths and stats and things like that. Then third is look for the candidates with combination of skills. At least some domain expertise is preferred. So you cut the time of training, you cut the time of getting acquainted that person, and also get a much better results. And fourth is dig deeper into candidate skills beyond keywords. So don't just look for keywords. See what kind of portfolio that candidate holds, what kind of experience that candidate is bringing to the table, and whether he is diverse enough to give you results in any situations. You want to stick with that candidate in your entire data value chain and data journey. You giving this insight, I close my talk. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to take those.
So there are questions, but I believe those questions are not specifically for you.
Okay.
There's one question that might be coming up. In the meantime, while that question is coming up, let me just share my screen. Okay, Rohit, I can see that you want to ask questions, so go ahead and ask. And in the meantime, I'll start with the next talk. You're able to see my screen, please confirm. Advait and Srinidhi, can you see my screen? Okay, so thanks, Advait. That was a good overview of the different roles that exist in data domain. I hope that you are able to now differentiate what is data analyst versus what is data scientist. If not, there is no problem. I think repetition is the key. So if we keep on learning and keep focusing, then I think it will become more and more evident over a period of time. Even to me, it took a bit of time for me to understand what kind of roles exist, and there's so many other roles that I may not still understand very well. So I think it's a normal progression that you will have. So in this talk, so first of all, to introduce, I'm Nikunj. I'm a co-founder at CutShort. It is a recruitment platform which uses AI and automation to cut short your path to the right talent. We thought of doing this initiative in partnership with Upgrad because we realize that there's a big gap in this market in terms of what the people need and what people have. So it is a big demand supply gap in the talent market. And we thought that this will be a good webinar where we can touch upon the basic stuff or basic gaps that recruitment process has, from understanding to executing on the recruitment process. And then we thought we'll do this webinar. So this is the idea. And with that, let me start my talk. It is going to be more about, it is going to be more about from where Advait left. So he talked about the roles. And then now let's look at a bit more in terms of, once you understand the roles a bit, how can you actually operationalize a recruitment process so that you get more success and you get the right kind of talent that your company needs. So first of all, we do have a problem. And I think before we do anything, we need to understand and admit that we have a problem. And what is that problem, right? So what we did recently is we did a survey of people who took data science interviews, and we asked them, a few questions. So these insights came up in that survey. And if you look at the first point, 60% people, they said that the roles that the companies were offering for data science were not very clearly defined. So there is ambiguity in that, and as Advait has described, what the company needs and what the titles are, there is a big gap between those two things. So there's no wonder that the roles that are advertised and the roles that actually are going to be, there's a big gap in that. So 60% people did say that the roles are not very clearly defined. 50% people also found the recruitment process to be ill-defined. So they could not understand that why the recruitment process is focusing on something while the job title is something else. So there is that gap, and that gap is something which we need to understand and we need to plug. So that's the topic of this this talk, and how can we solve that problem. The result is that if we don't fix this problem, then we are not going to be able to hire, or worse, we actually will make a bad hire, and the cost of a bad hire is much more. Right? So we all know that. So let's see what we can do about it. But before we go into that, the question is, can the recruiters be really blamed for this? Recruiters are kind of helpless. As I said earlier, the job titles themselves are vague and they're very broad. Data scientist, as Advait was saying, that data scientist is a catch-all term. If the term itself is very vague, if the description is not very clear, if the functional responsibilities of that role are not very clearly explained to the recruitment team, then it's very hard for recruiters to actually do anything about that role. A lot of times business also has unrealistic expectations. So you go to your hiring manager, or you go to your meeting with your team and you say, hey, we want to hire somebody who can do this and that. And you know what? They should also be able to do Y. Now, it's so much difficult for you to find one person who's good with all those 3 or 4 key things, that it is actually unrealistic expectation on the part of business, and it is set and doomed to fail, right? So that's something which reminds me of this kind of picture. I used to see this earlier, that how do you define, sort of business says I want this, and how does the whole communication thing breaks down. This is an example of how the recruitment process also becomes much more difficult if the entire organization is not mature, if the teams don't understand what exactly they need, and they describe it to the recruitment team or the hiring team, and how hiring team understands it and how they actually take the message to the talent market. So it's, all of that is pretty much broken. And what that makes recruiters do is that they start resorting to the things that actually don't work very well in data domain. So they start searching on keywords, which is a bad idea, because every resume out there in this domain will have all those keywords. So it's very hard for you to find the right talent just by the keywords. Not every keyword is important as well, because in this domain, things are going to change very fast. So you may not really look at, let's say, CNN or RN as one of the keywords. You want to check for something else. So searching on keywords is a bad idea, especially in this field. Then, since they don't understand or they don't have the idea of keywords, then they also start searching people on filter on the institutes. That okay, the person needs to be good with maths. So who will be a good person who knows maths? Okay, let's filter on people who went to great tech institutes, right? And the problem with that approach is it limits the options too much. You are looking for evidences of something which is a very narrow set of talent pool. There might be so many great people who are also good with maths, but that you're not able to tap. So it kind of limits the options. Then people start looking at, hey, I'm a healthcare company, so I want to hire people. Let's see what Practo people are doing. And then we start searching for people in Practo and say, hey, Practo is in healthcare, so data scientist at Practo seems to be a great fit. But it doesn't have to be always, because as Advait was describing in the previous slides, there is difference in the job role at every company, and every company and every organization is at a different point in their data-driven culture. So Practo might be actually doing much more stuff at the top level, or it might be doing a lot of heavy stuff on the data pipeline stuff, or building that kind of data pipelines for their business to survive. But you are taking their context and ignoring and trying to see if that context is relevant to you. It's not going to be relevant. So all the company-based searches and filters don't really work very well, and titles, job functions may not match. And recruiters, when all of these things fail, the closures are not happening, then they start praying, right? So there are a lot of prayers, in addition to searching on keywords, in addition to filtering on top institutes and filtering on companies. But hey, you know what? This is a proof that prayer does not work, right? So if the prayer does not work, then we need to move on and find a rational framework. And how can we hire for data roles, which is different from the previous, from the other traditional roles, like let's say front end, full stack, or maybe in technical you may have a non-technical, you may have a growth hacker role. Although all of those roles had some similarities, but they are very different. A front-end developer is a front-end developer. So, you know, if you are able to find a title of front-end developer, the responsibilities will be quite similar. And a front-end developer might be doing 3 or 4 things, but they are not very different from each other. Now, but that's something which does not really work in data roles. If you look at it, and I'll talk about it, but first of all, the framework is that you first talk to your team, sit with your team, and remove the job title from your mind. Don't try to start a discussion with a title saying, hey, do we need a data scientist? Okay, this meeting is about hiring data analysts. This meeting is about hiring machine learning engineers. It's not about that. It is, first rule of that meeting is that we are not talking about job titles. We are talking about the business problem. If you are a recruiter or if you are a hiring manager, you talk to the team, and the hiring team and the business team, they come to the agreement on what is the business problem that is being solved. The role that we are discussing in this meeting, what this role will exactly do. If you look at this framework, it is not very different from a normal hiring framework, but then there are some this framework needs to be really followed in case of data roles, and we will see why. Uh, because when you describe each role, that what exactly, this is a business problem. In case of Advait, he said that you are at Netflix, and Netflix says, and you are a recruitment team member at Netflix, and Netflix says we want to hire a data scientist, right? And you start a meeting and say, okay, what is the business problem? And the business team tells you that we want to recommend great movies to the right users at the right time. That's a business problem. And you say, okay, fine. Now the role that we are looking to hire for, what exactly that role will do, right? And that answer can change depending on the organizational maturity about the overall data operations that a company has. So will this role be mostly working or mostly about handling, querying, working with huge amounts of data, or this is going to be a bit more about, you have the data now, how can you slice and dice it to draw insights, and how can you make reports and communicate that report to stakeholders, right? So what is this the role? Or the role is about finding patterns in data to predict something. Now, this is what Netflix example is. Once you have that discussion with the team, they will figure out that out of these 3 or 4 things, the discussion will go to the point 3, that yes, we want this person to find patterns. Now, why, all these 3 or 4 things, they look to be coming up in the same discussion, but if you look at them, they're very different from each other. So the framework involves that we have devised. The framework is that you map the role. So you got some answer that in the previous slide, you got some answer that what this role is going to be about, and then you try to map the role to skill areas. If you look at data roles or the whole domain of data, there are 4 key skill areas. There are multiple and hundreds of skills, but they only key 4 areas. And these are the 4 areas that are plotted here. So there's maths and stats, there's business skills, there's data proficiency, and when you say data proficiency, and there's programming. Maths and stats is self-explanatory. Business skills is the ability of a person to explain the business context and work with the stakeholders to present them an idea about how to solve a problem. So this is like more business context. Data proficiency is what we mean from there is it is the ability to deal with data, maybe huge amounts of data, working with that kind of data store. It can be technical data stores like SQL, NoSQL, or whatever, and then it can be building pipelines and processing data, streaming data, all of that. So that's a data proficiency. And then there is a programming bit. So programming is again self-explanatory. So if you look at these 4 key skill areas, each of the roles basically is a combination of these 3 or 4 skill areas. Each is very different, and this is what makes data roles or hiring for data roles very different from hiring for other technical roles. Because although we talk about these 4 in the same breath, all these 4s require a different competency level. Somebody cannot be possibly good at all these 4 at the same time, which is different in case of front-end development or something else, where a person might be great at 3 or 4 skills. The reason being that these 4 skills are very different, not only in terms of what skills and what kind of brain you need to have, but also in terms of building significant competencies on these 4 things. It requires a lot of effort and not many number of hours before you really call yourself proficient. And Advait actually has a great blog on that as well, that you have a 10,000 hour rule. So for these data roles, you really need to spend 10,000 hours on each of these things before you can really call yourself proficient in those skills. So each is very different. So you cannot possibly choose more than 2 areas for any of the job description you're hiring for. So if in the previous slide, the answer was that we need somebody to predict what will be the right movie. The answer to that is, okay, now let's plot that role to the 4 key skill areas. And in that case, it will become maths and stats, and it will become most likely programming, right? So you need these 2 skills for that role. And then you decide, I have these 2 roles. Now let me decide the skills, right? So this is a complicated picture, so don't confuse yourself. This basically is about each of the roles, what kind of common skills they need to have. Don't focus too much on the skills because they will keep on changing. What is more important is you have the core skill areas, you combine the core skill areas with some skills, and you get a job title. So you have a core skill area on the left, for example. So I've just tried to present 4 potential combinations of 4 key skill areas. So when you have somebody who is really good with business skills, and he understands, or that person understands stats, that person becomes a business analyst, right? So what this person is doing, the person is looking at the data source. It can be as simple as a CSV file. It can be a text file. It can be an Excel sheet. It can be MySQL. So it has some sort of data, and the person is using the business skill to slice and dice the data. And the person has some basic understanding of stats. So the person understands that what's the median, where to use average, where to look for data, how to clean data, and how to remove the extreme part of data so that the overall conclusions are not biased. So the basic stat part of it and basic business skills with some key tools or skills like Excel, Tableau, ClickView becomes a job title called business analyst. You have data visualization expert, which also falls in the same category. Then you pick up, let's say, business skills plus maths and stats. That becomes a data scientist role. What this role basically is about is you have business skills, so you understand the business idea. In the previous example, we saw Netflix looking to recommend the right movie at the right time. So that's a business skill, right? Because you need to understand and potentially think of multiple angles to solve this problem. That Advait just mentioned that in the previous talk, that for this example, somebody who watched a Tom Cruise movie on a Friday night, there is a similarity between that group to a group which is also similar in that behavior. So you look at their recommendations and their history of movies they have watched and try to recommend based on that. So that requires a business skill because you understand the business context, and data scientist really needs to be very good with understanding the overall business context. And then you have maths and stats as a foundation for a data scientist to do anything with the data. So then they try to look at the mathematical models and they try to solve a problem. So that's how role number 2 is a combination of business skills and maths and stats. Then you have a programming and maths and stats. Now you just change one more, you replace business skills with programming and you get a total different role, a total different person. This person is not a data scientist. This person is an engineer at heart who understands maths and stats, and hence the person can actually work with different machine learning libraries and stuff like TensorFlow. The person can write code and enhance these libraries to get the right results, iterate over that over a period of time. So now the role is very different. The competencies are very different. If you look at the LinkedIn profiles of people for data scientist and ML engineer, they might be overlapping, but at the heart, you cannot change the fact that there are some big differences between those 2 kinds of people. It requires a different bent of the person. And machine learning engineer is more like an engineer who understands libraries and stuff. All the data scientist is more on the business side, who understands how to find potential solutions which solve a business problem using mathematics, right? So that it becomes very evident here that how markets and titles can actually confuse you. 4th example is programming and data proficiency. Now you have a programmer who can deal with large amount of data, who can build pipelines, who understands how data sources work, who's a very good person with all the SQL and digging for data and all of that. That becomes a data engineer because the person is actually using programming skills to extract data and manipulate data. So these are the 4 these are the 4 key skill areas. So every role you need to map it to one of these areas. You cannot choose more than 2 potentially, and you need to And once you have chosen the two, now you have the right understanding that my primary key skill area is, let's say, maths, and my secondary key area is business. Now you know those primary and secondary key areas, then you are well prepared to actually start a recruiting effort. Before understanding those key areas that you want to target, there is no point in starting a recruiting effort, right? Because right from your sourcing to interview to screening to assessments, everything will change based on those two key skill areas. Now you're prepared and you can start recruiting. So you have to choose the right place depending on the key skill areas you have identified. For example, if you're looking for business skills, if that is your primary key skill area, then you need to look at some blog post, because if you're looking at business skills, you need somebody who's a very good communicator of their work, who can understand how to build a story from some data points, right? So that's a business skill that you're looking for. So blog posts are great because somebody who understands the overall context will be a great articulator of these data and build a narrative out of the all data points. For ML and data scientist role, if that is what you're looking for, then you can look at some other stuff like Kaggle and Stack Overflow, because these people will be writing their day-to-day problems there on Stack Overflow, and they might be building and working on applying some models on the data sets on Kaggle, so you might find them there. An example of that is when you're looking for business skills, for example, and this is something which, again, going back to Advait, this is what, if you go to his LinkedIn profile, you will see this, he has written of these posts, where if you look at these posts and read them, you will find that you will immediately see that this person is a very good communicator. He understands the business context. He got hold of some data, which is public data available from, let's say in this case, Infosys, annual reports and stuff. And what they got from that raw data is insights, and you look at his explanations, right? So this is a good example of somebody, look at this blog post, and you know this person is very good with business skills. Now you need to understand for something else, right? So now you know how to look for evidences depending on the key skill area that you've identified previously. And the idea is just extended once you start screening the people recruiting. Once you have identified the skill areas, you can very easily screen profiles. I'm assuming not everybody's very technical here, so I'm not talking about from the perspective of doing a technical assessment or technical interview. I'm just saying from the basic screening perspective, when you're talking to somebody at Practo, for example, who might have written data scientist keyword on their resume or title, you just want to talk to them and understand what they do and screen for your primary key skill areas. If you're not a techie, you actually have an edge, and this is something which is different from other roles, because in data science or in other data roles, the business skills or the understanding and clarity of the overall context is very important. So if you're not a techie, you just have to ask them, and this is an example screening conversation that you can have. So let's say you are talking to somebody who is at Uber, and you talk to them, okay, so you are a data scientist at Uber, what exactly do you do, right? And ask them to do through all the jargons. Just say, can you explain to me in a layman's language, what exactly do you do? And in this case, candidate says, okay, we build models to decide optimal driver locations, right? So that's the problem which Uber has. And then you say, okay, cool, how do you do that? And then they throw some implementation approach. Again, if they are talking about too many keywords, if they're throwing too many skills and some jargon there, it's a sign that they don't understand the technicalities of it, and they're just taking all these jargons to hide behind them. So when you say they describe to you, let's say 2 or 3 sentences, how exactly they do it, and in this case, for example, they say, hey, we use a specific kind of neural network, and you have no idea what a neural network is. You have no idea what is a CNN. You have no idea what is a RNN, which is great, because all you have to say is, okay, can you explain that concept to a layman like me? Somebody who understands this concept can really explain it to you in a way that you can get around 70% of the idea. If you're not getting the 70% of the idea, And there's a favorite saying that I had, and I heard about it years ago, which said, if you cannot explain a concept to a 7-year-old, you don't understand it yourself very well, right? So it's data skills. If the person is not able to explain a simple context, a simple technical term which looks to be very complicated to you as an outsider, but they should be able to explain that to you. I'm very sure if I pick up one keyword and present it to any of my other two co-speakers, let's say I ask him to describe a Bayesian neural network to a layman, he will be able to do it in less than 3 sentences or 4 sentences, and you will definitely be able to get understand 75% of it. So that's the beauty of how can you screen even though you're not a techie. So let me sum it up. This was there is more interview tips, of course. If you're trying to how to give them assessments, should you give them take-home assignments and all of that. There's a big literature on that. That how can you actually figure out if somebody is a great fit for your team or not. But this is enough for you to get started from the perspective of of identifying the right kind of skill set or the role or the key skill area and doing a basic screening. So you are removing the basic noise and you're getting in proximity to the right talent. Summing it up, do your homework. So choose max 2 core skills. Even if you're choosing maths and stats as a core skill and business as a secondary skill, choose them, like clearly know which one is primary, which one is secondary, because it's very hard if you make both of them primary. You choose 3, it is going to become much harder, and it will be practical for you to look for a person who is good with all the 3 or 4 things that we previously saw in this slide. 1 primary and 1 secondary. Understand the context you are in. So in the case of Pacto example, for example, don't just look at Pacto and understand, hey, I'm a healthcare startup, I'm just gonna look at somebody who's from Pacto and it is data scientist in Pacto. May not work, most likely will not work. The organization is different, their context is different. The person who entered Pacto today or last 1 year may be doing total different kind of things than what you're doing today at a startup. So understand that context. Stop looking at the competition blindly. And specifically with high, the talent is indeed limited. When I say talent is limited, I'm talking about talent which has actually worked on the problems is limited. No wonder, because the whole field itself is pretty new. More people are entering this space now. So there will be fewer people in the market out right now who have actually worked on some real stuff. So look beyond premium institutes. Just don't limit your search to people who have done their engineering from top tier tech institutes and all that. Also look at people who have shown interest and who have the passion to follow something, and let's say they have taken some kind of good programs that are out there, where they can understand they get to understand the concepts and they get to experience and put them to practice. Like Alpharad, for example, which is one of our partners, and we have an exciting event coming up with them. I'll talk about that in a minute. But look beyond that. The limited talent pool from your industry, from your premium institutes might not be there. So throw and cast a wider net. Secondary skill areas can be built. So don't just look for, like, if you're sure this is my primary skill area, look for that. Be very specific about that. But if you identify, let's say, business skills as a secondary area, or data proficiency as a secondary area, then just try to look at the basic concepts and then give them the chance to learn on that skill. And that actually, is very intuitive, and it will be very productive for you to, get more talent pool in your consideration set. Reduce reliance on keywords. Don't just search, get some ideas from your team and then start putting the keywords out there. Keywords everybody is using. The competencies are what you should be looking for. So those key skill areas is what you should be looking for. Keywords will keep on changing, right? And yep, so I'm practically at the end of the talk. Before I go to the Q&A, if I have any specific questions, we are doing this great event with Upgrad on 22nd August, 3 p.m. on Kutshaw.io. It's an online event on our website. You don't have to go anywhere. If you're hiring for data roles, data science, machine learning, big data engineering, data analyst, tech, non-tech both. If you're looking for data roles, this is a great event for you to access a new talent pool which is available and groomed by companies, groomed by Upgrad and IIIT Bangalore, which is their education partner. So there's a green button on your screen. You can click on that and register for this event. And with that, if you have any questions for me, I can perhaps answer, or I can directly go to the next talk. Any questions? No questions. So I think let me.
No, so we have 6 questions.
We have 6 questions. I think let's do one thing. Let's start with Srinidhi,
Yeah.
and then we can collectively answer the questions because it's already 4 o'clock. Srinidhi, okay. So let me invite Srinidhi to the webinar talk, and Srinidhi was introducing himself. So he is a partner at the Math Company, which is a relatively new company, but they are growing very fast and doing very interesting work in data, specifically with data capabilities. So Srinidhi, I would love to have you, and over to you.
Sure. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Great. Okay. Let me just share my screen. Give me 1 minute as I'm sharing my screen. Great. So hello folks for who joined little late. Let me just introduce myself again. I am Srinidhi Rao. I am the head of delivery and the senior partner with the Math Company. Right. So we at the Math Company basically help organizations in create data centers of excellence. Right. So there are established centers of excellence like Walmart, who comes to us for upgrading their data science centers of excellence, and there are new ones. A lot of Fortune 500 companies want to build their data center of excellence out of Bangalore. So they come to us as well. Right. So what we do for them is basically create the strategy for how the COE should be structured, and how many data scientists and how many data engineers they should have, what should be the reporting structure, etc., and actually help them hire this entire structure, train them, and create the right process so that they all work as a team. Right. So this is what we do in brief. And prior to this, we were the founding team was with this company called Mu Sigma. Most of you might have heard of Mu Sigma. So as you know, we were one of the pioneers in this field, and we did like 1 million experiments before we could, we could get it right and hire data scientists at scale. And then we also got a lot of things wrong, and also the world moved on, due to which we are experimenting a bunch of new things in Math Company right now. So I would want to talk through that story of how we went about doing it. Right. And you will see that there is a lot of correlation between what Advait and Nikunj talked and what I'm going to talk about. So I'm actually surprised because we hadn't touched base with each other in the past.
Yeah. Same here.
Great. All right. We already talked about. So just to recap, we help organizations transform in data and analytics by either creating or upgrading centers of excellence. Now, the topic that we are talking today, which is basically how to hire the right data scientist, it couldn't have been a more relevant topic, than any other time, and that's for a few reasons. Let's talk about that. First is that, as you guys might have already experienced, every company wants to hire data scientists, and they want like a 5 on 5 rating on every single skill set. I know that's out there. Okay, programming, I want a guy who's 5-star in programming. Okay, big data technology, I want a guy who is like 5-star in big data technologies. I want a guy who is like 5 on 5 on ETL and visualization. Like they want a 5 on 5 on everything, right? The expert level skill sets, right? Because of that, the recruiting teams go on a back foot, because first of all, it's very difficult to find such people. And even if you find such people, it's like there are far too few and far too rare, due to which you get complained about the speed of hiring. So either you get complained on the quality of the data scientist because he is not a 5 on 5 on everything, or you get complained on the speed of hiring because you can't hire such 5-on-5 people, fast enough, right? This is where the recruiting team gets to blame, right? And also the other side of the problem is that these so-called experts, who are, who have all these kind of skill sets, just can't stop complaining because they feel they're underemployed. They have gone to this upgrade and simply learn and all those courses and can do all the advanced algorithms, but eventually they're sitting and doing 3 dashboards, right? So they feel underemployed. There's attrition, and then again there is pressure back on the hiring team that we are not able to hire good enough. Right? Now, why this all is relevant? It's because you guys are at the center of all this action, and you guys can change this for the better, where India can become the center of not only good data science talent pool, which is already there, but getting this streamlined in some way, shape, or form so that everybody is happy at the end of the day. All stakeholders are happy. So how do we solve this problem? So before we get there, I just want to recap what Advait and Nikun just talked with respect to the primary skill sets of that is required in the data science field. This is no different from what they told, except that I have grouped it in a slightly different way. So one is stat and maths, right? And then is the programming, which is like R, Python, and the statistical related programming. Then the business context. Then I call them as technology skills, which is all this Hadoop, Hive, Scoop, Scala, etc., all the big data technologies out there. Communication skills, which is not like, generally we equate that to talking in English, but it's not the case. I'm specifically talking about being able to talk the language of business as well as the language of analytics. Right? And last thing, which I would definitely rate at the top, is the problem-solving skills. Right, which is a combination of analytical thinking and consulting skills, and we'll talk about what it is in a minute. Right, so let's broadly divide it into these 6 major skill sets, not very different from what either of the 2 folks told so far, right? Except that I'm giving additional stress on problem solving because that comes everywhere. Right. Now, we did an experiment, back in the days when we were building Mu Sigma, right? So what we did was we were also trying to figure out what this field is all about, and this field itself, both in terms of tools, technologies, and algorithms, wasn't that advanced as it is today, right? So what we did was, and obviously there were no data scientists out there in the market, right? We had software engineers, right, and then we had statisticians coming out of ISI and other schools. Right? So what we did was we tried to hire a bunch of high potential youngsters. Think of IITs, NITs, and the top tier colleges. Who, for all practical purposes, don't know anything, right? But they're very high potential in terms of their capability to learn, right? Now we take them through a very grilling test, in very similar to a CAT, IIM CAT, or things like that, and then very grilling set of interviews. We can know in terms of can these guys learn fast enough, right? And then we take them on board and take them through a 3-4 month grilling session in terms of all these 6 skill sets, right? So they know a little bit of all these now. Right, and try to make them work as a group so that they can figure out how to solve any particular problem in the world. Right? So call them as generalists for of a particular word, because they know everything, little bit of it, but they don't know anything, very, very deeply, because as you know, these are 0 to 3 years out of college. Right? Now this worked very well in the first few years. All right, as you saw, some of the companies, not only Mu Sigma, but a few other companies in this field also were like a very high success. That's because of 2-3 reasons. One is that nobody knew this field well, right? And these guys are able to learn faster than anybody else, which is the crux of innovation, right? And solve any problem. And secondly, and more importantly, they were able to talk to each other very, very well. So all of them were generalists, right? So due to which they can talk each other's language. So they can collaborate very well as a team. And the team as a whole is very, very effective. Right? Due to which some of the companies were like a huge success story. But then what happened? Right? As you can see, all these guys were like, 1 star in their skill set out of 5, right? But the point is that they know everything, right? A little bit of everything, right? But over a period of time, the appeal of this model started fading and clients weren't subscribing to it. And that's because of few reasons. One is that the field started maturing, right? The Hadoop came in, Hive came in, a lot of big data technologies came in, and then the corresponding ETL technologies also came in, etc. Right? Now, some of these skills you can pick up only with experience, right? You cannot like wing your way with a weekend crash course. And secondly, all these six skills that we are talking about, the maturity curves are very, very different. So, for example, when it comes to technology skills, it comes only through experience, as we talked about. Right? Business context only comes through brainstorming and a lot of talking, with the business and solving many problems. And statistical and mathematical skills come only with reading and actually practicing, because this is a field that has been growing very fast. Right? And problem solving skill again comes with practice and keeping your mind sharp. Right? So all this is a different maturity curve, as you know, right? Due to which the generalists were not able to traverse to any of these curves. It's like you're trying to catch 2 or 3 rabbits and you can't catch any of them, right? That's how it is. So eventually they became good generalists, and from good generalists they became great generalists, but they never became specialists. But what the world needed as this field matured was specialists. Due to which the appeal of this generalist model started fading away. So this was the last 6 to 8 years story of the data science talent field, pretty much in the entire Indian market, right? But for a few niche players. Now, if this is how it went about, right? Then how do we solve this problem, right? Generalists are not in appeal anymore. World needs specialists, but specialists are too far and too few, and how many actually specializations are there, right? And how do we make the specialists talk to each other? Because if you're by definition, if you're a specialist in one, you don't know something else, right? So you can't. Two specialists have a lot of difficulty talking to each other. So first thing that we did is separating BI and dashboarding from core data science and advanced analytics roles. So now it has become like a rule, right, and widely accepted the premise that BI is different from advanced analytics. Although your HR from your company won't tell that, he says analytics, and then you start looking for statistics, mathematics, etc. Right? But at the core of it, just so that you guys are on the same page as us, right? But dashboarding and visualization has some skills that can be very different from a core data science skill set, right? So one is dashboarding has visualization concepts, and some of the core visualization tools, maybe a Tableau, maybe a ClickView, maybe D3JS, whatever it is, right? So you should be able to do that. Second part is the SQL and any form of SQL that feeds back into the data, into the dashboard, and doing some kind of an ETL, due to which source data comes back to this main database of this dashboard. Right? For the most part, there is hardly any mathematics. Although you should understand a little bit of business and be able to manipulate the source data to fit what the business needs. Right? So BI is different from advanced analytics. So let's separate that out. That makes your life like 100 times simpler. Right? So if anybody asks you, okay, I want to hire analytics folks, first question you should be asking them is it BI or is it advanced analytics? Make sense so far?
Yep.
Then we go further classifying the advanced analytics or the data science roles into 3 major layers. And just for your understanding, it's a very rough diagram. I didn't get time to put the entire thing in the right thing, but it should give you a little bit of context. Right? First thing is at the center of all this is our guy, the data scientist. His job primarily, guys, is to go talk to the business, understand what the business requirement is, and work with whatever is the stack that you have, right? That has a visualization layer, that has R or a Python or whatever, and then a database layer, right? So he understands the business, uses his business acumen and his programming skills to build a bunch of models here, and work with this guy called the business analyst to generate the right insights. Okay, what are these numbers saying? Right? And then relay them back to the business. Very simple, straightforward. That's what he does. Right? Then there is a data engineer, right? who enables this by building the right stack and the right ETL so that all the data sources feed back to this stack, right? And it is optimized in such a way that the most important problems that the data scientist is solving, right? The database is optimized for that. Right? That's what the data engineer does. So he is the enabler behind what the data scientist does. And I'm having like very loose definitions right now. There are all different flavors, but I'm just making it simple for you guys. And last part is that business analyst, also very similar to what a project manager would do, right? Which is basically talking to the business stakeholders, understanding what they really need in terms of solving the business problem, working with the data scientist to make sure that it's simplified as much as possible so that you start with a simple MVP model, right? And see if that's what they really want, and then going on making it more and more complex, right? Otherwise, data scientists have a flair for going for the most sophisticated model out there, irrespective of whether the data supports for those sophisticated models or not, right? And secondly, he also helps the data scientist generate the right insights, based on his business knowledge, right, from these numbers. Right? So we're talking about three primary roles: the data scientist, data engineer, and business analyst, and similar skill set for the project manager. Right? So after dividing roles between BI/dashboarding and advanced analytics, right, which started working very, very well for us because we were able to retain people out of it, because data scientists were coming with the expectation of building advanced analytics models, right, but ending up doing dashboards who were eventually right. We were able to solve this problem to a large extent. Then we started dividing by these three skills, so that each of them can specialize in their respective tools, technologies, ways of thinking, right, and start becoming specialists, right? So all we needed to make sure that these guys talk among each other was that everybody takes one common course, right, or have relevant experience so that they have some common base, they can collaborate with each other. So this is what we did, and this started working very, very well, right? Because this gives you clarity on, first of all, what the guy is going to do. Secondly, what are the skill sets required? And lastly, and most importantly, what are the most minimum set of skills that we should hire for, right? And then what are the things that we can train them on with the first 3 to 6 months of their job, so that they can satisfy these requirements within 6 months of joining, right? And it works out very well because in those 6 months, they get into the groove of the company's culture as well, and also develop a lot of business context. Right? So hire for the bare minimum skills and train for the rest of them. Now this model has started working out very, very well. Unfortunately, I can't give the numbers in the public forum, but the attrition numbers of a lot of our customers started reducing. Right? And the pace of hiring increased tremendously. Right? And the world is moving towards that ideal clean and green world that we want, where all stakeholders are happy. Now, this model is not very hard to replicate, right? What we need to do, right, when you are going and talking, to the stakeholders, is ask three fundamental questions, right? Once you understand this model in terms of what is each role and what skill sets are required, first ask which organization in the company will this guy be working in, right? Is it the shared services IT organization, or is it directly under the business, like maybe a supply chain team or a marketing team or whatever, right? Or is it under the insights team? A lot of these big companies have the insights team, right, that are attached to the functions, right? Is it the insights team, right, etc. So you should ask what is the organization within the company, when it's in which this guy is going to work in, right? And that helps because if the guy is in a function like marketing or supply chain or whatever, he has to have a lot more, talk a lot of business language as compared to most other people, right? And every other skill becomes secondary compared to being able to appreciate the business, right, etc. Secondly, what is the nature of the projects, and what are the technologies the organization uses today in terms of the stack, right? So the projects can be, for example, it can be, I think Advais already touched upon this, right? It could be a very ad hoc project where the company just wants to know why the sales in this particular region is going down, and it might be a one-time analysis where you present it as a PowerPoint. Right? Versus it might be a dashboard that gets refreshed every week that tells you which of your customers are going to get churned next month or so that you can intervene, right? Or it can be like what do we call as like the program to program kind of analytics. For example, you are building a recommendation system for Amazon, hypothetically, right? Now data comes from technology and it eventually feeds back to the Amazon website, right? And it gets rendered in a different way. So your output goes to the program and not to a person. Right? Now you do those IPS in a slightly different way, right? You need to understand the nuances so that you know what are the primary skill sets required. And secondly, what is going to be the role of this particular person? Is he going to build the visualization layer? Is going to build the model? Or is the model already existing and is he going to productionalize that model? Right? Or is he going to have a relook at the entire database and the stack, in order to make it more viable for the future projects? Right, etc. Right. So based on these, the skill set that will be required might be very, very different. So my advice is don't start with getting a JD from the hiring manager. Right. Understand, ask these questions in depth and understand, get the answers to these questions so that you can actually challenge back and see, okay, why do you need a 5-star on all the skill sets? Right. Why doesn't he suffice if he knows maybe a Scala and Hive and a little bit of business knowledge and not really modeling, right? So you can push back. So and once you start pushing back, you will realize that a lot of people on the other side also don't have clarity because this field is still emerging, right? And you can help them provide that clarity where you can and you can be the leader in this entire field, right? Rather than them dictating it to you and you being a service provider. So these 3 questions, in all the experience that we have had in terms of helping enterprises and all the big GICs out there in India create the center of excellence, these 3 questions have been, coming very handy and help us solve big hiring problems for organizations. And last but not the least, there will be many dynamics in the organization. A lot of people want to hold control, etc., etc. But only way you can get this right is by talking directly to the hiring manager, collaborating with him in terms of the organization, the nature of projects, the skill sets, and what is the role of the new hire. So please, please, please talk to the hiring manager. Right? Of course, keep other stakeholders in the loop, but this is the guy that really matters. So yeah, this is the story of how it went about. Just to summarize, BI and advanced analytics are different. And within advanced analytics, you have different roles, and there might be different flavors of this as well, as covered by Nikunj and others already. Please get into these details and see which are the skills that are really required and align with the hiring manager on how to test for these skills, rather than just going after, okay, I want to hire data scientist and just going after all the skill sets out there that come under the large umbrella of data science. Yeah, with this, I would like to open it up for questions.
Okay, thanks, Srinidhi. I think that was pretty interesting, and like the way you laid out the completes. You also augmented whatever we said with one of the key things like problem solving and communication skills that were missed out in the previous talks. So thanks for that. It's 4:25, so let me just take a few questions real quick, and Advait, I hope Advait also is here. So let me pick up. What can an organization do to attract better candidates in data roles? Question is being asked by Yash. So do you have any specific comments to that, Srinidhi?
Yeah, I lost you for like 5 seconds. Coming in.
What can an organization do to attract better candidates in data roles?
Yes, that's actually a great question. And let me tell you, it's not uncommon at all. I am working with the 22 GICs in Bangalore as I'm talking today, to help them staff it right. So there are a few things that are common. Of course, the basic things like compensation and all goes unsaid. You have to decide where your company wants to be. In terms of 100th percentile is say Facebook, and 50th percentile is whatever the other organization is. Where do you want to stand here, right? So all those basic things goes unsaid. In addition to that, the most important thing that we saw when we did survey of data scientists, right, they were looking for few things. One is the quality of work should match what they are looking for to do in their career. There are people who get gratification by doing a lot of math, with stat, and learning more and more algorithms, building those, building those models, etc. Whereas there are other guys who want to do a lot of programming and get the gratification through that, right, etc. So there are different flavors. It's very important for the HR organization to understand where this guy finds gratification and align the work, at least to a large extent, to what the guy needs. Right, that's one. And secondly, given the pace at which this is growing and also the genre of this kind of people, kind of geeky type of people, they generally look for somebody who they can look up to, who knows more than them. If he's a data scientist, who looks for at least one senior data scientist in the same organization, hopefully in the same team, that he can look up to, right? And then go brainstorm or want to become like that person, etc. Right? So that is another thing that's common that we saw, right? And it was a common feedback whenever people are iterating that, okay, I don't have anybody to look up to here. All right, that's the second one. And thirdly, technology, for some reason, technology plays a very, very important role in terms of if the world has moved to Hadoop and you are still in, say, SQL Server 2000 in your organization for all the right business reasons, data scientists won't appreciate that. So these are the three most common things that we saw, in addition to the basic things like the compensation and the brand of the company, etc.
Okay, there was one question for Advait.
Yes.
You talked about data science process.
Yes.
So how does that help a recruiter in sourcing or attracting the right talent? A question is asked by Rishmi.
Okay. So that slide is more designed towards give insight on a day-to-day life of a data scientist, and tell recruiter that even though we call it as a one job, it is actually a combination of multiple things that you are doing. Primarily in focusing on talking to, as I said, talking to the stakeholders, inspiring decisions, help defining the problem, help defining validation criteria. This is all business aspects. Going back to your desk and help data engineers to clean data, coordinate with them to get right source of truth, validate the truth, and things like that. That is the engineering aspect. And then actually building model is the programming aspect of it. So it encompasses all these three things in some ways. So if recruiter has insight that data scientist is using all these three skills in some way, he can spot good profile and find the right mix. That was the intention of showing that slide.
Okay. One question, and this is, I think, interesting, and this will be something that a lot of people who are not techies or engineers, they will actually start thinking about in the next 2 to 3 years, that I am not a techie, I am a professional belonging to BD. So the person does business development and cloud sales for SaaS, and he has good understanding of business context, but he does not understand. He understands technology and he understands the business context of the cloud sales and business development and SaaS, but he is a newbie in data science. So what kind of careers this person can hope for? This question asked by Gaurav. So Srinidhi, would you like to pick this up?
Sure. So as we talked, there are different roles, right, that we talked about. So math heavy, technology heavy, right, visualization and that kind of things, and business heavy, right. So people who are coming from outside of analytics, maybe through IT field and other things, and then who go to some kind of a course, right, based on their inclination, can opt for 2-3 different things, right. Easiest obviously is the BI group, but probably I guess that the the very reason why they did the course that they did was because they didn't want to, to do the technology part of things. They wanted to do math, right? So, except that they can, they cannot go at the same level of hierarchy right away to another organization. They might need to go one level below. They can go as a core data scientist, right? As maybe a junior data scientist, associate data scientist, whatever we call it, right? And shadow one of the senior guys and pick up those skills, right? So math is one thing that can be learned easily, pretty fast, right, in a matter of few months, as against the technology part, which generally takes a lot of experience, in order to master, right? So there are the enterprises that are expanding their analytics teams, right, and as well as there are startups, right, and there are these service provider companies. Mu Sigma is there, Bridge I2I is there, Fractal is there, bunch of companies are there, right? So any of them, they can enter as a associate data scientist kind of a role, right, and shadow somebody senior and pick up the tricks of trade 6 months to 1 year, right? As long as they also pick up equally on the problem solving skills and keep their mind sharp, they should be able to cut it and have experimented enough and more. People have clicked.
But will that be a data scientist or associate data scientist role, or will that be business analyst or project manager role?
No, it should be more of an associate data scientist or data scientist, right? Business analyst role, what happens is they can't succeed right away because business analyst role is kind of tricky. In most organizations, business analyst will, business analyst generally has to coordinate between business on one side and the data science team on the other side, and he has to gain respect of both of these people, right? Due to which it becomes kind of tricky if he has not worked on analytics projects hands-on in the past, right? Eventually, you can move to a business analyst kind of a role, right? But at the outset, it becomes challenging.
Okay. Yeah, but I thought it would be because a person is more from the non-tech side, understands the business development part, the business context and business stakeholder part. I think
for MBAs, yes,
earning
I
the
agree
trust of the.
But non-MBA, it becomes tricky because when you're talking to business, you should give them confidence that you understand analytics, and you can do that only if you have worked hands-on at some point in time in your life with respect to analytics.
So somebody is asking, Satish is asking, I talked to a candidate and the candidate asked me if you have a role for data science engineer or you have a role for data scientist. What's the difference? Advait? I think data science engineering is like machine learning engineer. So I think ML engineer versus design engineer is kind of used in the same context.
So engineering part comes in two flavors, as we talked about. One is actually making algorithms work and extending libraries, and the other is building stack for data. So probably recruiters should ask back saying that, are you interested in building data stack and skilled more in data technologies, or are you skilled more in TensorFlow, scikit-learn, and algorithms? And that will probably answer what he means rather than going in the title. But data science engineer is a kind of a new title for me.
No. So I think there was this forward email that I got some years back. It had like a matrix, a table, some titles on one column, some titles in other columns, and then you combine any of those three titles and you will form something which you can flaunt in your meetings. So like predictive, scalable, rational modeling, right? And nobody understands what that means. But I think you can combine these terms differently. But I think that's a great answer that when you attach engineer to any data role, then it can branch out in any of those two streams. It can be a data engineering role where you are working with more data sources and stuff, or it can branch out to an ML engineer kind of a role where you're looking at more libraries like TensorFlow and stuff, and then you're building some stuff on top of that. So I hope, Satish, that helps. Let me see if there's any more question that has not been answered already. I see a lot of questions, but seems most of them have already been answered. I think Vishal, you asking, I'm a product manager, which skill should I learn to communicate properly? So I think maybe we can pick this up. So I'm a product manager. Please let me know which skill should I learn to communicate properly to data guys in terms of technology skills, programming skills, or some other apart from business skills. So I think this is Srini, what you were saying earlier was somebody who's not a techie, comes from outside, wants to get into data analytics. Now, as you said, the person needs to win trust of the business or the client, which is something these people can do. Now, how do they earn the trust of their data team? Because they don't understand out there outsiders to this field. How do they? What should they learn to get the respect of the data teams so they start trusting them?
Yeah, I don't know what is the meaning of data teams. So do you mean data scientists, or is it this engineers who are building that stack? I presume
I think
it's
data scientist.
Data scientist. Great. So in case of data scientists, it's going to be pretty easy given that there are enough and more courses out there, upgrade offers, Simplilearn offers, Jigsaw offers, etc. All you need to know is two things. Okay, one is what the business really wants in terms of solving the business problem, which I guess this person already knows. Second part is how do you translate that business question into an analytics question and be able to have an educated conversation with the data science team, right? For that, you just need to know what it needs to solve a data science problem, analytics problem, right? What is a simple linear regression, etc. You just do one or two of those simple courses hands-on, right? You will be able to pick up the tricks of trade in terms of talking that language, right? That is sufficient for you to give you enough forms and ammunition to be able to have a educated conversation with data science team and give your requirements to them, and also validate whether what they give back is what you're looking for. So I would say an introductory course in data science from any of these good places.
Okay. I think then we have just time left for one or max two questions. One question is, what is the best source to find data scientists? So Bindu is asking this question, other than CutShot, of course. So I touched upon this in the talk that once you have identified the key skill areas for the role that you are hiring for, look for evidences, look for sparks for those roles. So if you're looking for, let's say, I give example of a business role. If you want to know, if you're searching for people who are good with business articulation, understand the business context, look for blogs, look for Medium blogs, look for pieces where people are presenting theories based on data. That might be one source. If you're looking for machine learning engineers, then Stack Overflow might be one. Looking for data scientists, then look at Kaggle, look at the different work or different problems they are attempting in these places. So apart from hiring specific solutions like CutShot, if you look at some other platforms where people might have evidences of their work, these might be some good sources. So one question for recruiters, although this question is from the candidate side, so I'll skip it. Okay, so I think we are mostly done. Do you guys want to add anything to that question? That how can you find more data scientists? Where do you find them?
I think Nikunj, you covered it. I mean, Kaggle is a very good place for locating data scientists. That is one. And there are many hackathons that get arranged by Topcoder and other competitive programming sites. Many of them are not directly related to data science as such, but data science routinely compete in these coding challenges as well. So as Srinidhi mentioned, if you want to spot problem solving talent, that is a great place to be.
Okay, all right. So we are at the end. Thank you so much again, Advait and Srinidhi, for joining us today and sparing your time. I hope it was a valuable and useful session for all the people. We had 176 signups, so I hope more people who missed it live, they will come back and view this. and we will be emailing you the slide text of the talks, so you can go through them, and if you have any questions, you can forward the questions, and we can forward those questions to the speakers and get you the answers. Uh, Anything else? Finally, all the recruiters who are here, if you are hiring for these roles, as I said earlier, we are doing a special event on 22nd. It's an online event. You can just register and hire for these roles without any hassles. We will be sorting candidates and getting the skill scores. So most of the stuff we talked about, you will be able to actually see some of the stuff into action there, and will be able to find the right talent. So Bindu, you asked where to go for hiring. I think first thing you should try, and all the people who are using, who are looking for these data roles, looking to hire for these roles. 22nd is a date, and we will give the link. We have given the link again, so you can sign up for the event there. With that, I would again thank you all, and I look forward to seeing you in one of our future webinars. Thank you so much, and have a
You
great
too.
day.
Bye bye.
Yeah, bye.